We've talked about proportions several times, and today we're going to talk about proportions and how they relate to percentages. Remember, a percent is always a number out of 100. If you get 100% on a test, that means you got the entire test correct. So we're talking about parts of things. When we write proportions using percentages, we're always going to put the part on the top and the whole on the bottom. So if you're talking about a percentage, the whole amount of a percentage is always going to be 100. So you're always going to have 100 on the bottom, and then whatever part of 100 you're talking about is what will go on top. So for example, if you had a 50% on a test, your ratio would be 50 out of 100. If you're figuring out how many questions you got correct, say for example there were 50 questions on the test, the whole test had 50 questions. That's why we put it over here with the whole. And then we could use our proportion and solve. We would take our 50 times 50 divided by 100, and that would equal 25. Here's some examples. What number is 60% of 45? Remember, our part goes on top and our whole goes on the bottom. So for our percentage, we would have 60 over 100. 100 is always the whole part of a percentage. Now the question says, what number is 60% of 100, or 60% of 45? So what number is 60% of 45? 45 is the whole amount, so it needs to go on the bottom, and we put a variable on top, and now we can solve our proportion. 60 times 45 divided by 100. We punch that into our handy dandy calculator, and we get 27. Our second example doesn't give us a percent. It says, what percent? Notice the question is asking for the percent. So that means if we have the part on the top and the whole on the bottom, that means that we know a percent is always out of 100, but we don't know what percent they're talking about. They're asking what percent. So our variable goes over here. Now we got to figure out with the 65 and the 13, which one goes on part and which one goes on whole. What percent of 65 of tells us that 65 is the whole number, which means 13 is the part number. We have our proportion set up, so now we can solve it. We punch it into our handy dandy calculator, and our answer is 20. Here's a third example. 20 is 25 1/4% of what number? 20 is 25 1/4% of what number? Remember, our part goes on top, our whole goes on the bottom. We look at our percentage first. Our part for the percentage is 25 1/4. Whole for the percentage is always 100. 20 is 25 1/4% of what number? That tells us, because the is between the 20 and the percentage, that is the part. So the part goes on top and our variable goes on the bottom. We have it set up so we can solve. 100 times 20 divided by 25 1/4. And our answer is 79.2.